Greetings. For this explanation part of the program, I will be explaining to you our main menu system of our zoo project. So, firstly, we have arrays that can store the animal's information. There are the array names, the array species, the array age, as well as the array enclosure number. So, these variables stores their name, their species, their ages, as well as which enclosure they belong to. So, when the program starts, it shows a menu with 6 options. It has the add animal, the view all animals, search by name, count by species, display by enclosure, as well as the exit. Now, if the program does start, it prompts the user to enter a choice. So if the input is not a valid number, it will show an error and it will ask again so that the user can input the right number or the right option. So if the input is valid, then the switch case, which is utilized in the code, it will run the action. So for example, the user enters number 1, it lets the user add a new animal. Number 2 lets the user view all the animals. The 3 searches by name. The 4 counts animals by species, and then the 5 displays them by the enclosure. And then the 6 exits the program. So this menu runs inside a do while loop so that it could keep on coming back, or it could still run again once the user enters a option, and then they could enter another option if the first option is done. And if they do decide to exit the program, they could just choose the 6, which is the option 6 in the menu. And that's it for the main method of our project.
In this section of the code, we can see the method addAnimal. This method asks the user to enter the animal's name, species, age, and the enclosure number the animal will be placed in. The values entered by the user will be stored in temporary variables. After the user enters these values, the code checks first whether the entered enclosure number is valid. If it is not, an error message will be displayed. But if the entered enclosure number is valid, it will then proceed to check whether the enclosure number is full or not. If it is full, an error message will be displayed. But if it's not full, the information entered by the user is transferred onto the available slots in the corresponding arrays. After that, the system informs the user of the successful process.
Greetings, and I'm going to discuss to you all the viewAnimals method. It is designed to display all the animals currently stored in the zoo system by iterating through the enclosures and printing the details of each animals. It started by declaring the boolean variable has animals, which is initially set to false, and serve as a flag to check at least one animal existing in the system. The method that imprints the header, which is the zooAnimals, in indicating the start of the animal list. Using the nested loop, it goes through each enclosure represented by the outer loop, and each animals within the enclosure represented by the inner loop for each animal found. It sets has animals to imprint the details in such as animal's name, species, age, and its enclosure number, where it is kept. This ensures that all the animals in all enclosures are displayed properly in a structure format.
At the end of the method, an if condition checks if the has animals flag state false, which means no animals were found in any enclosure. If that happens, it shows the message no animals registered yet, to tell the user that the system has no data saved. This is helpful because it avoids showing an empty list and makes it clear what the system current state is. Overall, the method uses nested loops and a simple check to handle both situations when there are animals to show and when the zoo is empty. The method also shows the animal details in a clear format, making it easy for the user to read. Any new animals added will also appear automatically without changing the code. Finally, this setup can handle more animals and enclosures in the future, keeping the system useful as it grows.
Hello everyone, mga greetings. Today, I'll be explaining the searchAnimal method from our Zooperman project. This method helps us search for an animal by its name and display its details if it exists in our zoo system. First, the method asks the user to enter the number of the animal they want to search for. This input is stored in the variable name, which is a string. Next, we declare a boolean variable called isFound and set it to false. This helps us track whether the animal was found during the search. Now, we use nested for loop to go through our 2D array. The outer loop goes through each enclosure using the index row to represent the enclosure number. The inner loop goes through each slot in the enclosure using the index column. We check two conditions. 1. If array name row call is not null, meaning there's an animal stored in that slot. Number 2. If array name row and call that equals is ignore case name, meaning the name matches the user's input, ignoring capitalization.
I'll explain what the output of our code is and how the loop works in it. The search animal feature in this zoo inventory system allows the user to find an animal by simply typing its name. So when the option is chosen, the program asks the user to input the animal's name. It then uses a for loop to go through the list of all registered animals one by one. At each step, it compares the user input with the stored animal name using the equals ignore case. So it doesn't matter if the user types in uppercase or lowercase. If a match is found, the program immediately prints out the details of that animal, like its name, species, age, and enclosure number, and then breaks out of the loop to stop searching further. If the loop finishes and no match is found, the program prints a message saying, "No animal is that name found." In short, the loop works by systematically checking every stored animal until it's either find the correct one or confirms that the animal does not exist in the record.
Dangal greetings everyone, I am Vicente together with Sicat. So for this video, we will going to explain the countAnimal by their species. So for this line of code asking user for input, the method is named countBySpecies. First, it asks the user to enter the name of the species they want to count. For example, if the user want to enter or type lion, the program will search all the lion inside the data. Next, reading the input is stored in a variable called searchSpecies. This will be compared to the animal species stored in the array. Next, we created also initializing a counter. We set up a counter named count. This will keep track of how many animal of a chosen species are found. Next, we created also two loops for the data. The first one is outer loop, goes through each enclosure, and the next one, inner loop, goes through each animal inside the enclosure. Next, checking for a match. Inside the inner loop, if statement that checks if the current animal matches the search species, and the method equals ignore case used so that the comparison ignores uppercase or lowercase letters. For example, the user want to type letter L, big letter L, lion, and small letter L, lion. This will be still qualified or still be considered. The next one is counting matches. Every time a match is found, the counter increases by 1. This way, the program counts how many times the species appears in all enclosures. So for the next line, the code, Sicat will explain that. Thank you.
In this part of the code, this will tell us what will be the output. This will be depending on the value of count for the species we are searching. So first, it checks count if count is greater than 0, which means there at least one animal found. If that's true, it checks again if count is equals to 1, which means exactly one animal is found. So it will print there is one species in the zoo. This condition is just to make sure that the sentence is grammatically correct. So if the code or if the number is more than 1, it will print there are 2 or more species in the zoo. But if count is equal to 0, meaning no animal were found, the program will print no animal of species found in the zoo. To summarize, these methods allow us to count how many animals of a certain species are inside in the zoo enclosures. It takes the user input, loops through the stored data, check for matches, and then gives the total count. Again, this is Jalcadea Sicat with Miss Bianca May Vicente, and that is for our explanation of the method for counting animals by species. Thank you.
So after we've learned how to add, view, search, and count animals, let's now move on to another important feature, the display animals by enclosure. This feature is handled by the displayByEnclosure method. It's connected to the main program, which means whenever the user chooses this option from the menu, this method is triggered and becomes functional. So first, the program prints a message on the screen, asking the user to enter the enclosure number they want to view. Once the user types in a number, it is read by the program and stored in a variable named enc. This variable acts as the key. It decides which enclosure number will be accessed. Remember, this works because earlier, when we used the addAnimal method, the animals were stored in arrays organized by enclosure numbers.
Now, the program is need to make sure that the user input is valid. This is where the if statement comes in. Since the zoo has an enclosure number from 0 to 4, if the user types something outside this range, the program will immediately print an error message and exit the method with a return statement. This prevents the program from searching in a location that doesn't exist. There's also another if statement that checks if the chosen enclosure is empty. If no animals are stored inside that enclosure, the program simply prints a message saying that the enclosure has no animals and then exits. This helps avoid showing a blank or confusing result. Finally, the last system.out that print line displays the animals in the selected enclosure using a for loop. The for loop goes through every animal stored in the specific enclosure and then prints out all of their details, such as animals' names, species, age, and other information. In the end, the user gets a clear list of all the animals inside the enclosure they selected.
In this part of the video, we'll be showing you a short demo of our zoo management system called Zooperman. When the program starts, it shows the main menu with several options, including Add Animal, View All Animals, Search Animals by Name, Count Animals by Species, Display Animals by Enclosure, and Exit. The system will ask the user for the number of its choice. In this part, we'll be choosing option 1. When the option 1 is chosen, the system asks the animal's name, species, age, and enclosure number. The program confirms by displaying animal truffle added successfully to enclosure 0. This means the data is now stored in the system. Now that I've added several animals, I'll show you how option 2 viewAnimals works. The program then displays all the animals stored in the system. As you can see, each animal is listed with these details: their name, species, age, and enclosure number. The system repeats this format for every animal that has been added. This feature helps us quickly see all the animals currently stored in the zoo, along with their details and where they are placed. Next, I'll demonstrate option 3, search animals by name. This allows us to look up a specific animal in the zoo. The program asks to enter the animal's name. For example, I'll type truffle. The system searches through the stored data and displays the details of the animal. This confirms that the animal exists in the zoo list, and it shows all the important information. Now I'll demonstrate option 4, count animals by species. This lets us check how many animals of a specific species are in the zoo. The program asks me to enter a species name. For example, I'll type dog. Since I've already added 2 dogs, the program shows there are 2 dogs in the zoo. If I enter a species that hasn't been added, like elephant, the program will display no animals of species elephant found in the zoo. Finally, I'll demonstrate option 5, display animals by enclosure. This lets us view which animals are inside a specific enclosure. The program asks me to enter enclosure number from 0 to 4. If I enter 0, the system will check that enclosure and show all the animals inside. For examples, enclosure 0, there's only one animal. If I type an invalid number, for example 7, the program shows invalid closure number. This prevents errors and reminds the user that only enclosures 0 to 4 are available. So option 5 helps us organize the zoo by enclosures and see exactly which animals are located in each one. The last option in our menu is option 6, exit. This closes the program. From the menu, I'll type 6 and press enter. The program then displays a farewell message, exiting the zoo, goodbye. This tells the user that the system has shut down successfully. And that completes the demonstration of our zoo management system. We've seen how to add animals, view them, search, count by species, display by enclosure, and finally exit the program.